Hi, today we're going to be checking out the ChipEx paint repair system. This is one of those smudgeable paint systems. They match your paint. You just send them your paint code. That's all I did. And then you put on the paint. We'll walk through the whole process, but you smudge it, you blend it, and it's supposed to make a really good repair. So one of the spots, the spot we're going to be working on today is this chip right here. It's a really deep chip. Oh, I recently moved, and during the move, after I came back, there was this big chunk of paint missing right there. So this was on a trailer while we moved and towed by the moving truck. And during that move, the jostling must have bumped it up against the side, and it ate the paint. So I've already washed the car, and then I let it sit overnight. I just used regular soap and water, well, automotive soap. And now I'm going to clean it before we start doing the paint. And to do that, I want to use the blend tool, which is, we'll see it again in step 2. They also provide this. We're going to use this also when we blend, but you can use that for the first part to clean. It's this little blue, rag. So you want to get in there, clean it thoroughly. Don't want any waxes, you don't want any road grime. Just get in there and really take it out. So that's step 1. We'd clean that. That stuff stinks. It has a really strong smell, so you're gonna want to cover the lid back up when you're done with that. So the next step is to take one of these brushes, and I'm sorry if I'm sweating, it's really hot in here. It's like supposed to be about 100 today, and there's no humidity, but still that's warm. And I think it's probably like 90 in this garage. So if I'm sweating, that's the reason. So we shake this up really well. So it's got one of those little balls in there that really shake it up. I've already tested this in a non-visible area of the car to make sure the paint matches exactly. We sent them the color code of the paint so that we get a match, but you want to make sure you still test it, because otherwise, you know, if there was some kind of mix up or something, you don't want to put something that doesn't going to look the same on yours. So after we shake it up well, make sure that that's all dry first. You don't want to put it while the blending isn't dry, which it dries quickly. These gloves come in the kit as well. While you're using the blending, basically while you're doing everything, you're going to be even touching the paint at one point because you got to smudge it. So you want to have the gloves on. They come in the kit, they're great. If you do this more than one time, I'm not sure how many times these gloves will be good for, so you might end up having to go to the store and buy a few extra rubber gloves like this. So you want to put it on fairly thick, because what we're going to do is we're going to put it on, we're going to smudge it a bit, and then we're going to blend it, which is going to slowly take off sections of the paint. So you don't want it too thin. I've seen people do this. I watched other people do this to try to get a feel for how it's going to be. And if they put it too thin, it makes a little indent, and we don't want an indent. We want it to look even. Just kind of work it into the spot. It doesn't have to be perfect because we're going to blend it. And we're going to smudge it as well. So this is a bigger one than most people will have. Usually you don't have little road rash areas. And this is a bigger spot. Once you're happy with that, now it's a warm day here. So this is going to dry pretty fast, but what we do need to do, we need to take our finger with our glove and we need to smudge it a bit. I also recommend something like this rolling chair because it makes it a little easier if there's a spot like this. But just kind of smudge that in there, make sure it's in the grooves well. And there we go, got a little bit on there. So we're gonna let that dry. It should take about 5 minutes. So see you back here in 5 minutes. I'm gonna let that dry fully, and then we're gonna use the blender and take some of the excess off, and then we'll be using polish. I'll show you that in the next few minutes. Okay, after we've painted it, we let this dry for about 5 minutes now. Depending on the conditions, you might need to let it dry a little longer. You'll know by taking your glove, just kind of patting it over, make sure no paint comes off. It's warm in here today, so this is drying pretty quick. You do not want to let it sit over 20 minutes. That's kind of the maximum. But a lot depends on how warm it is. The warmer, the faster it's going to dry. So they give you this blue towel, and we're going to use that for the blender. And then they also give you this spongy little thing. So what you want to do is take that sponge, put it inside your towel. Now you're going to take your blend. And you put the blend on. I also should mention you want to do this on a cool surface. This is nice and cool. It's been in the garage all night. If it's too warm, paint dries too fast and it may not work as well. But all you're going to do is take your blend, kind of go side to side, and you're going to take off. What you're doing is you're slowly, you'll see on here, you're slowly taking off the excess paint. You don't want to put any downward pressure on it. You just want to go side to side gently. You'll start to notice that a lot of it, like there's a section right here that's really blending in well. And it's just taking off a little bit at a time. And you just want to do it slowly. And like I said, no pressure on it, because if you do pressure, it'll take off too much. Now, if you didn't put enough paint or you didn't clean it well enough, what's going to happen is all this paint's going to come out of the inside as well. And if that happens, what you're going to want to do is clean it again, let this blend dry, and then put a little more paint on it. So I'm just going to keep doing this until it's flat. And it's almost there. Now that once we've done the blend, we're going to come back over it with our next tool, which is going to be the polish. So I'm going to finish this up and then we'll come back with the polish. Now the next step, after we've blended that, I did have to do it a few times. It was a little tricky, especially with a spot this big, to get it right. If you keep going too far with the blender, it'll start taking out the whole paint. So I had to repaint it and do it again. So I ended up doing it about 3 times until I got it to be pretty even. You do need to stop a little bit before you're all the way smooth, I've noticed. But it's not going to be too noticeable once we get to this step. This is the polish. I did try this out already. I tried it on a couple scratches and it's actually pretty good. It makes some scratches, like not too deep scratches. They kind of disappear. Put a little bit of the polish on your microfiber towel. This comes in the system as well. And we just go out of town. Light pressure is okay. You don't want anything too hard because you don't want to just take off that paint that you just put on, and just kind of work it in. I want to take off anywhere where the blender was and make sure that that's taken care of. So this is kind of going to repair the paint a little bit and make it so the color matches a little better. You may want to do it a few times to get it. Right here, it matches pretty well. But you can tell, like I said, this is a really deep chip. The regular rock chips is really what it's going to do well for, I think, because you're not filling in so much. This one's a difficult one, so I'm not as happy with how it works on bigger scratches. Get this polish. I think what I want to do is show you the difference. So right here, it looks okay. Before and after, it looks good. It's not noticeable until you get right up on it. It does this job about as well as you'd expect from a normal touch-up paint. On a bigger one, it's hard to get that smooth. I think you may end up coming later with some, if you really want to get it smooth, what you may do is come with some wet sanding and get it just perfect. The blender does okay, but it's really hard to get that perfectly smooth with the blender on a bigger spot. So now let's do a smaller spot and see if it's any better, because that spot was a tough one. So before I say, it's an okay product, it's not great. I mean, you could buy a $20, for the price, you could just buy a $20 can of touch-up paint and feel like you get the same thing. So before I say that, I'm going to try one more spot. And they provided us with this product for free, but they are not an advertiser or anything. So all we got was a free product out of this. And I want to keep it real for you. If I don't like it, I don't like it, you know? So let's see. So this is just a little tiny rock chip right here. Actually, let's do this one over here too. Here's a bigger one. Oh, in this area, there's a few rock chips. So got a rock chip here and a rock chip there. And there's a couple others that I can take care of later. But these are just little tiny rock chips. So we've cleaned that now. Next, we're going to go use the paint. So I'm going to go ahead and get a new paint stick because that other one's been sitting for a while. So again, we're just going to shake this up really well. And this rock chip was the one that is noticeable most on the camera, so I'm mainly going to show that one. This one's a really small one, so that'll probably end up doing a really good job. But so we've cleaned the area, and then we're going to get a little more paint. They give you, I think, 10 of these sticks. If you do it all in one time, you can use one stick over and over. If you let it sit, you might want to get a new one just so that you don't have a bunch of sticky paint or dried paint on the old one. So we're going to fill this in. You can already tell that this is what it's really made for, was for rock chips, that little rock chips. The big one right there, that's a difficult spot. I can tell that these filled in really well. They almost look like they're done before you even go to the next step. So now we're just going to wait a few minutes, make sure that dries. And we're all dry. So like I said, it's a warm day. I'm sweating like a pig in here. And I'll take our spot. I want to go ahead and move it to another clean spot because we've used that. I don't want to take too much paint off just by that. And the biggest thing is the pressure. You don't want any pressure. It makes a big difference. If you get some pressure while you're blending, it'll just take your paint right off. So, or the new paint, it won't take the existing paint. Fortunately, I was a little worried about that because I haven't tried this out before, that it would take the old existing paint off. So just do a little side to side, and 1 or 2 passes on that might be all it takes. Yeah, so just a few passes on a little rock chip, you want to stop. Because if you keep going, you're just going to take off all that paint you just put on. You're not going to have anything. So now I'm going to let the blend kind of dry a little bit. And then we're going to go to the polish. So once the blend dries off a little bit, put on your polish. And let's polish these 2 spots up. Got to get a clean spot on the towel, which becomes more difficult. I think I probably would recommend grab your own microfiber towel after you put this on just to do it. But yeah, that spot is pretty much gone. You have to get right up on it to see it, and I may have taken a little bit too much off. You can go back and put a little more paint on it if you take too much off, which I might do. But let me do that. I'm gonna stop the camera so that I don't waste a bunch of film. I'm gonna do that and try it again, and then I'll show you what it looks like after I'm done with that. All right, I'm all done. I applied a second coat just to be safe and blended that. That blended much better. So you do have to make sure you have enough paint. I think the first time I didn't have enough paint on it. And you can slightly tell there's a difference. It's slightly not 100% even. Again, I think if you want it even, maybe get some tape around it, fill it in, and then use some the blender with the tape. Maybe that would help. Or if that doesn't work, maybe later after it dries all the way like this one, I might come in, tape it around, and do some wet sanding on just this little bit. Use some, get some paint that won't, like some painter's tape, and just a little bit of water so that it doesn't ruin that, and then polish it. And then I think that might look a little better. That, in all honesty, I want to give you a real review. So here's what my thoughts are on it. For rock chips, it does pretty well. It's not magic. It's not as good as I was hoping for, but it does a good job. It's about the same, a little bit better than just going out and buying like the Porsche touch-up paint. So for rock chips, I think it's worth the little bit of extra money that you pay. I'll put the price down below. I can't remember. I think it's like 50 bucks or something for that. So a little can of Porsche paint is going to cost you about 20. So for about 30 bucks more, you get the extra stuff to blend and the polish. The polish alone is a good product. The polish I did on a couple of light scratches, and it does seem to take those out pretty well. Now, on bigger chips, I wouldn't recommend it. If you got a bigger scratch and that's what you're wanting it for, just don't buy ChipEx for that. Buy it just for the rocks, rock chips. Don't buy them for long scratches. I would just buy Porsche's touch-up paint, and you probably get as good, if not better, results from that because it won't be all bumpy. Just put the Porsche touch-up paint and then do some light wet sanding, and you're probably just as well. So, little mixed on the review, but I would buy it again if, well, I didn't buy it this time, I got sent, but I would use it again for little rock chips, and I think I will for my rock chips that I have on here, but I won't use it for long scratches. It's just not very good for that. So thank you very much for watching, and if you have any questions, just comment below. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already.